Fortress on a Hill with Henry, Danny, Kagan, Jovonni, Shiloh, and Manisha.
Welcome, everyone, to Fortress on the Hill, a podcast about U.S. foreign policy, anti-imperialism, skepticism, and American way of war. I'm Jovonni. Thank you for joining us today. Today we will be discussing something different. We'll be touching on how America's pathological obsession with maintaining hegemony and empire abroad is hollowing itself out, with the people of the United States paying the price. There are deep contradictions happening in the U.S. that our leaders willfully continue to ignore and leave in neglect because they are more concerned dominating other people's abroad. This is manifesting in the current political crisis we're in. The crisis in infrastructure, with crumbling bridges, roads, tunnels, and dams. According to American Society of Civil Engineers, America get a C- in infrastructure. The report says that 43% of U.S. roads and highways, as well as tens of thousands of bridges, were in poor or mediocre condition. Public transit system earning a D-. Here in Texas, we had a collapse in the power grid back in 2021, creating a blackout for days during a winter storm that affected 4 million homes, killed an estimated amount of 200 Texans. Turns out that our power grid is ran by a private company called Electric Reliability Council of Texas, or ERCOT. And they hadn't upgraded the system since the 1980s. There is also the healthcare crisis, which are taking many Americans into bankruptcy. The healthcare insurance crisis, that each year the cost keeps rising while giving less coverage. That is, if you have healthcare insurance at all. A housing crisis. Homelessness across America has risen 12%, yet there are more empty houses in America than there are homeless people. Indeed, less than 3% of federal budget can end poverty in the U.S., yet our leadership would rather see it fester and invest money elsewhere. We are in an election year, which is pure spectacle and with no substance. The duopoly are promising the American people nothing of value. The Dems are saying vote for May to keep Donald Trump out of office. And the reps are saying Dems are a bunch of crooks and will make America great again 2.0. But they don't tell you. But I guess we'll just figure it out later. But it sounds good, though. Both are promising to keep funding wars overseas and attacking other nations. However, which is the only promise they will keep. Meanwhile, the American people will keep working themselves to exhaustion with little to show for, just a cycle of death. So I brought in a friend to share her story of daily struggle. Like most Americans, continue to grind on a daily basis while tackling challenges that could be made easier for her if indeed we live in a democracy and had a government that attended to its people. Here I am with my friend who will use Mia to maintain her. And how are you today?
I am doing good. Good morning.
Well, thank you for coming and taking some of your time to share your story with us. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am going through a lot, but I am maintaining some way, somehow. I'm in my mid-30s. I used to do hair. I was a hairstylist for many years. And as of right now, since my diagnosis about 3 years ago, it's been a little hard. So I'm having to do different side jobs here and there just to make money, but under the table, so to speak. But making some crafts, baking here and there, just to get by and still maintain my health coverage that I have.
And can you share a little bit about the health coverage you have and why do you go through all that?
Yes, back in 2020, I had got diagnosed with lung cancer. I didn't have insurance at the time. My options were to get on emergency care link just to get my diagnosis, see what level I was at. They had found a tumor, so I got emergency care link to get my biopsy done and to get to my cancer doctor. After emergency care link ended, because I only had it for about a month, I was told that I had to get insurance, whether I pay out of pocket or I could apply for disability Medicaid at the time. I started calling around to different insurances But since I was coming in with a pre-existing condition, the monthly rate was extremely high. And I then tried to apply for Medicaid disability and I got approved for it. But since I was approved for the Medicaid disability, I was forced to have to quit my career. I was working as a hairstylist for many, many years, and it was one or the other. And at this point, my hands are tied. My health is where it's at. And if I'm needing to do treatments and visits and scans every couple of months and treatments every month, doctor visits every other month, money wise, it's how am I going to make it? So I went with having to quit my job, my main career. And yeah, it's been a journey. It's definitely been a journey.
So what is emergency care link?
So I didn't have insurance at the time, right? And when I was paying, I had paid out of pocket initially to get a visit with the doctor. I think that one was like $300 just to see, I believe it was a nurse practitioner because I went in on a weekend. And they just checked my vitals, checked my lungs, told me to breathe in and out, heard some fluid in there, and they just assumed that I had pneumonia.
Mm.
So they gave me antibiotics for 2 weeks, and then I went back and I had to pay again for the checkup. Yeah, it definitely adds up. So then after that, they were like, no, you still have fluid. So then I had to do a CT scan, had to charge that on my credit card. That was about $700 to $800. CT scan showed that I had a mass. So then from there, they were like, no, we need to get you in for a biopsy. So emergency care link, you have to go in, fill out paperwork. You have to show how much you're paying for all your bills. You have to, give them proof of employment. I went in with the information from the 2 doctor visits that I was currently going through health issues. They found a mass. So with them finding the mass and me having that on paperwork, it allowed me to get the emergency care link because it showed like, hey, something's going on. And it wasn't just like, oh, she needs to go in for like a small visit. Like it was like, no, there's something there. I didn't have insurance. So they granted me the emergency care link, had it only for 30 days. So within the 30 days, it was stressful. I had to keep calling just to get in to a primary care doctor. From that primary care doctor, I had to explain my whole situation again. And I was like, look, this is what's going on. Last month, I had went in for this. My symptoms started with this. Here's my CT images. Once he saw my CT images, he was like, oh no. Next day, they called me. They're like, no, we're going to get you in with the lung specialist. So then I went in with the lung specialist. They saw my CT images. They were like, no, we need to get you in with the biopsy. After about 3.5 weeks, I finally was able to get into the hospital and they were able to do my biopsy. But it was just very stressful because it's like I found something, they found something, and it's just who's going to help me? How fast can I get seen? And the stress of not having the money to pay for the insurance and only having 30 days with CareLink.
It's only for 30 days.
No, it's not only for 30 days, but the emergency care link, they only grant it for 30 days. You have care link and you'll get seen. They have their primary doctors and specialty doctors within their network, but they bill you and go based off of your income. So then you just have to pay a monthly payment until you pay all of that off. If you stay on CareLink, you can get seen, but appointments take longer to get in. You only have a select range of specialty doctors. In my situation, since my diagnosis was a little bit more severe, they told me it wasn't recommended to stay on CareLink because I was going to be on a journey with treatments and doctors and scans. And those scans are pricey. I mean, one of my scans that I do every few months are about $18,000 and $19,000. My treatments alone are about $18,000 a month. So they didn't recommend CareLink because it was just going to be way too much for me to pay.
Right.
And then I couldn't pay if how was I gonna be working and having to pay that and then just trying to survive and pay bills and keep a roof over my head.
Yeah, and my understanding is that CareLink is a program that is only available for residents in the city you're in or in the county you're in,
Yeah.
available for people outside of the county. And like I said, it's not a universal program. It's a program that's in your county. And like you said, they only have a selective range of doctors that will accept CareLink. And yeah, and like, that just manifests, just go to show that the healthcare system that we live in is a healthcare system that is for profit, a healthcare system that is to treat people. It's not a healthcare system to prevent illness. It's a healthcare system to extract wealth, for,
Yeah.
from people. So how does that affect your condition? How does it affect like your aspiration?
Oh, lordy, it affects it a lot, and I would have never known. I've always heard, that the system is not right or it's messed up or it's rigged, and I never understood it until now currently going through it. So now because of my condition and because I'm relying on the state Medicaid/Medicare to cover my scans, cover my treatment, help cover my doctor visits, I can no longer work. And if I do work, then I'm afraid of them taking my insurance away
Why would they do
because I'm sorry?
Why would they do that?
Because according to them, if I work, then they see me as like, "Oh, she's fine. Oh, she doesn't need the help. She can work, she can pay for her own insurance." And it's like, not fully, I have side effects from my treatments, fatigue. It's been hard because before my diagnosis, yeah, I had plans to open up a business. I had bigger goals in mind. And now since my diagnosis and I'm relying on the Medicaid or Medicare to get me by, I can't do nothing. I feel like my life is on hold. I can't apply for apartments that I would like to live in on a better side of town. I'm restricted to where I can live basically because I can't work. I can't show that I make 2 to 3 times the rent because I'm depending on this insurance to help me get my treatment. So it's like, what do I do? Try to work 2, 3 jobs just to make insurance so I can live on the side of town that I want, or put my health first. But if I put my health first, then my life is on hold. So yeah, it's a bummer. I mean, I would love to work. I would love to pursue school. I would love to pursue open up my business, but I feel stuck, and that's the hard part.
Yeah, man, you're not alone. Like I said, in this country, there was more priority is given to overseas adventures, both parties, which they have a monopoly on our political system, would rather spend squander money abroad to control other people
Mhm.
overseas, to control other people, to dictate to other people what systems they should have, how they should live, etc. To destroy other nations and then spend money to rebuild them again. You know, and I'm bringing this up because a veteran podcast, so it's relevant to what you're sharing with us here because just to throw some numbers around. Most of the people who listen to us are veterans in this podcast. Many of them are veterans of the Iraq War, Afghan War, or some older veterans from back in the Vietnam era. And there's still money being spent on those overseas ventures that weren't necessary. They weren't needed.
Mhm.
It's because it was just to expand American power abroad at the cost or at the American people here. You know, just like the Iraq War. Just throw some numbers around the Iraq War and the Afghanistan War cost $46 trillion, and it's still counting. Um, and the Syrian War, the war in Syria, which is more recent, and the Iraq War Part 3, it cost $2.8 trillion. And still counting. The Ukraine war, up to this point, they have sent over $100 billion to Ukraine to maintain that war over there. Um, and and now with the slaughter and the genocide that's happening in Israel, the United States government is spending $17 billion to keep that going. You know,
Mhm.
there's huge contradictions. Meanwhile, average Americans like yourself, they're on a grind. They have to struggle every day. Working 6, 7 days a week. Just to make ends meet.
Yeah.
Now, when you're now with your conditions kind of kneecap you to get ahead, and you still have responsibilities apart from that. You still have family responsibilities that you still got to attend to. That yeah, you're being stretched thin, and like millions of Americans are going through the same thing. Um, you're fortunate that you have a family network that supports you, but other people don't. If you found a system, you found something that can help you. But what would have happened if you wouldn't qualify for Medicaid? Um, you know, uh,
Yeah, if I didn't qualify, oh Lord, I would really have to work, I would say at least 3 jobs to pay the insurance costs on top of my living expenses because there would just be no way. I mean, they were quoting me, uh, 7, $800 a month on some insurances because every insurance I called and I was telling them my situation, they're like, "Oh, no, you have a pre-existing condition," and then the type of pre-existing condition, and it was just so heartbreaking because 'cause I'm like, "Man, I'm already going through a lot to hear about my diagnosis, and then I'm calling to get help, and it's like, 'Oh, well, you have this. Oh, no. Well, we can help you, but at this price.'" And if I'm, living by I'm the only one providing for myself, paying all the bills, all the expenses that go in just living and surviving, and then to have an additional payment, and then to not even be able to work fully because you're tired, because you have the side effects from my treatment. It's very discouraging, it's very hard, but I would have to find a way to work at least 3 jobs to make that extra income because the income prior that I was doing my hairstylist career, it was enough to live. But now to pay extra expenses or pay out of pocket at doctor visits, like, where would I be getting that money? That and me having to work at least 3 jobs, I'm estimating just to cover all that, like, that would take away time from my family, take away time from, raising my nieces, and I feel like I would just lose all the way around.
have you looked into the Affordable Care Act? Do you qualify for that? Or anything?
I did, and, I didn't qualify for that.
Didn't qualify for that.
No,
Why?
because, my pre-existing condition, I didn't qualify, like, you could get it if you didn't have nothing wrong with you.
Mm,
Yeah.
you're
But I
healthy.
so upset because I was just like, "Man," like, I thought I was here to help, and it
Exactly. They marketed it as like it was like the best thing since sliced bread, right? But there was so
yeah.
um
And then I was hearing from other friends that those that did try to get the Affordable Care Act, a lot of doctors didn't accept the insurance, so it's like them too were also left with, like, a small range of doctors to choose from or a small range of specialty doctors, so it's like it only helped them to a certain extent.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that was a bummer, a big bummer.
Yeah, I mean, other nation. I mean, United States is the wealthiest country in the world.
Mhm.
Americans are roughly 5% of the global population, right? Uh, but we dominate at least over 25% of we consume over 25% of the world's resources. Right. So we consume more resource. We generate more wealth uh, than any country in the world of our size. Right.
Mm.
Yet the wealth that we generate, which comes from which wealth is it's transferable, it's transferred, right? And wealth comes from labor. That's where wealth comes from, right? We talk about Jeff Bezos and all these people, right? But he owns Amazon, but Amazon wouldn't be able to do anything if it wasn't for people laboring, moving
Mhm.
around and stuff like that. So that's what Jeff Bezos' wealth comes from the people that are down in the warehouses, that are moving stuff around for him, that are delivering packages and stuff. So that's where wealth comes from. It comes from labor. Not just because this person had a big great idea, right? Labor comes. That's where it comes from. So we have all this wealth. Country generate all this wealth. Yet the priority in every election is to cut taxes, right? Now, taxes, when you cut taxes, like Donald Trump, for example, his last administration, right? He did the largest um tax cut, in history, right? And that's usually marketed to us as a good thing because we got less taxes coming out and stuff like that. But what happens is, right, that it hollows it puts the country at a deficit, and it hollows the country out. So the country still needs funds to function. Where do they get the funds from, right? They cut services to get the funds to maintain the how the country operates, to pay salaries, et cetera, right? That means that poor people or working class people, right, get less of the services, right? Every time tax get cut to the most wealthiest among us.
Mhm.
That's just one example, right? And there are countries that are less wealthier than the Americans, the United States, right? But yet they have a healthcare system that covers everybody. you know, the people are less sicker than we are.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's a big, huge contradictions that we're living in. Yet most people aren't aware. Most people are still captivated by the two-party system. They argue against each other because I support the Dems and I support the reps. But when it comes down to it, both of these parties are working against their constituent, working against their own people.
Definitely. I agree with that. And I just don't understand why so much money is getting sent for here, for that, for wars, when we have so many people here in the United States that just need help.
Exactly.
They simply just need a little help. And it's like, how are we getting turned down? How are we having to live so restricted? And yet there's so much money going elsewhere. It's sad.
So Mia, so what do you see yourself now? How do we go from there?
How do I see myself now? Well, I'm just hoping to get over this diagnosis so I don't have to be handicapped by the system. I want to get back to working. I want to be able to go open my business and just live without feeling afraid of like losing something that I so need. So yeah, I'm hoping and I'm praying to get over this one day.
Yeah, and I mean, and what you're needing, what you're asking is not something astronomical. It's something basic,
Yeah.
right, to live, right?
Yes.
Where you're born and raised as citizens of this country, right? You deserve to to be um you know to be franchised, to be a part of it, the country, and people that you put up there, they're supposed to there to represent you, right? They're supposed to
Mhm.
take care of you.
Yeah.
Um to not necessarily take care of you that has a negative connotation in the United States, but to pretty much attend to represent you,
Mhm.
represent your needs and represent uh, you know, your well-being.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, thank you for sharing. Um,
Thank you for having me.
any last comments, that you would like to share before we depart?
I would just like to say to anybody who's in my situation to not give up
Mm,
and just stay positive, even when it's hard.
exactly.
Even when it's hard, there will be a way to get out of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Mia. Stay positive. Um,
Thank you.
you'll get through this. I'm very, very, you know, uh, yeah, yeah. I am very, um, know that you'll get through this, and yeah, look forward to talking to you again. Seeing you again.
Definitely. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Money is tight these days for everyone. Penny pinching to make it through the month often doesn't give people the funds to contribute to a creator they support. So we consider it the highest honor that folks help us fund the podcast in any dollar amount they're able. Patreons is the main place to do that. In addition, any support we receive makes sure we can continue to provide our main episodes free for everyone. And for supporters who can donate $10 a month or more, they will be listed right here as an honorary producer, like these fine folks. Fahim's Everyone Dream, Eric Phillips, Paul Appel, Julie Dupree, Thomas Benson, Janet Hansen, Ren Jacob, and Helgeberg. However, if Patreon isn't your style, you can contribute directly through PayPal at paypal.me/Fortress on a Hill. Or please check out our store on Spreadshirt for some great Fortress merch.
We're on Twitter and Facebook.com/Fortress on a Hill. You can find our full collection of episodes at www.fortressonahill.com. Skepticism is one's best armor. Never forget it. We'll see you next time.